This show brought to you by Audible. Audibletrial.com/horror virgin for 30 days free and a book to get you started. For your book recommendation, Jen Foratu.
Whoop, whoop. All right, so today we are watching Event Horizon, and if you like Event Horizon, you will probably like Books of Blood by Clive Barker. It's a collection of like novellas, and a lot of movies have been adapted from these, like Midnight Meat Train, Lord of Illusions, and Candyman. So if you like Event Horizon, you will probably like Books of Blood, and honestly, anything Clive Barker's written. It's very kind of similar in style.
So audibletrial.com/horror virgin for 30 days free and a book to get you started. Enjoy. This episode's also brought to you by Nick B.
Nick B.
Nice.
Hey, Nick B. Thank you so much. You are so awesome.
And normally this is when we would tell you that Nick B wants you to check out God Country, but they actually just got funded. So
They did.
had
Hooray.
a successful funding venture and raised like $25,000.
And I like to think a lot of that is due to Nick B.
I'm going to say 100% it's all because of Nick B's persistence.
It really is.
You know, I don't want to pat myself on the back. But
Do you think Nick Beats is going to record the closing credits song?
oh my God, I really want Nick Beats to be the DJ in that
Now
song.
that God Country's funded, can we go back to Nick Beats? Because I need to hear some of this
You
music.
know that that's not true, right?
Wait, what?
Wait, he's making up Nick B facts? But
Yeah.
he got mad at me for making up Nick B facts.
Yeah, because you can't make up Nick B facts about Nick B. Nick B makes up Nick B facts.
Well, thank you very much, Nick B.
Yeah,
but-
if you even are Nick B.
Yeah, if that
I don't even know
isn't
what to believe anymore.
What even is a Nick B?
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick B. Please keep supporting us.
This episode also brought to you by
Carl. Hey, Carl.
Wait.
And Carl just wants us to promote ourselves.
I know.
So if you can't, go check out our blog at horrorvirgin.com. A lot of great stuff there.
But that's so cool of Carl to do that because
Yeah.
he could plug himself or he could choose any other thing. And he just wanted us to promote ourselves and
Which
the
is
website
great.
and the blog. And I just figured out Twitter cards, guys.
He
It's
just
cool.
seems like a genuinely nice
He
dude.
is a nice, I really like
really
Carl.
does.
Don't get jealous. They both seem really nice.
Yeah.
And he put our thing on his Twitch stream,
Yeah,
right?
so if you went to his Twitch page at twitch.tv/CarlosMOL, you'll see there's a link for the Horror Virgin right on his Twitch page. So anyone who's watching him play video games online, right under his stream is like a link to us, which is super nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Carl, for being the man.
Carl, you are so awesome. Thank you. Hey, Todd, can you bring the theme music in, please? Why
Did you recently watch Mulan?
I mean, Mulan's just basic pop culture knowledge, right?
Is it?
You dishonor my answer.
Welcome to the Horror Virgin, everyone. We got lots of weird opinions about movies
I do
today.
love Mulan. I'm not going to lie. I really do love Mulan. It's a great movie.
I haven't seen it.
What?
I don't know.
What? We've got to defeat the Huns.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Let's go kick some honey buns. It's a good movie.
they
I'm
say that
surprised
in
you
the
have kids.
movie?
You haven't seen it.
I know. I try to avoid those movies for as long
You
as
would actually
possible.
love it because it's like
Yeah.
totally anti.
Oh, I know.
Well, it's not
Patriarchy.
I don't think it's anti-patriarchy, but it is like a strong female lead, which is why I'm
Right.
surprised you haven't seen it.
I know, yeah.
So speaking of Mulan, we
Yeah.
watched Event Horizon today.
We did watch Event Horizon. I love Event Horizon.
So let's do first thoughts. So what'd you guys think?
I thought this movie didn't hold up at all, and I didn't like it.
So did you see it back in 97 when it came out?
Nice.
But I did not like it then. I do not like it now.
Okay, so it didn't hold up then, so it still doesn't hold up now.
Yes.
Okay. Jen, how do you feel about
Dude,
it?
I saw this in theaters, and I remember I went to see it with my friend Nathan, and he like ran screaming
Nathan
out of the
from
theater.
Leslie Vernon?
No, it was a different Nathan.
He did. We're best friends.
I know. Yeah.
No, he and I, not you.
Oh, Nathan's my best friend too.
No, he
Didn't you
say
hear that interview? So, anyways, I went to see this with my friend Nathan, and it terrified him. And I remember thinking, I don't think it's that scary, but it was kind of funny. But I loved this movie. I think I owned it at one point. I don't really like sci-fi movies that much, but this one doesn't have aliens in it, so I loved it.
It is my first space horror, I think. And
Really?
this is the first time I've seen it, so I don't have any recollection from the 90s. I don't
Yeah.
even remember when it came out. I just looked it up because I looked at the box office stuff that it came out in 97.
I love science fiction and space movies and stuff, and I
love science fiction and space movies and stuff too. This movie did scare me. We'll talk about that on the scary scale, but the effects didn't hold up very well.
No.
I didn't hate appreciate the story of it so much, but the effects sort of take you out of it a little bit. Which is, we sort of talked about this in the Thing episode, because the practical effects hold up so well. Shitty CGI doesn't hold up very well.
Yeah, and there's a reason that some of the effects look really bad. And I think that's interesting you say, because you really like science fiction, and I don't. Like, this movie is set in space, but that's really the only scientific part of it. Like, well, and I guess there's a black hole
and the whole
element.
black hole engine that drives the whole plot.
What I was saying is, this is a haunted house movie. It just happens to be set in space.
I don't know the rules of all that stuff.
Well,
I look to you guys for that information, because I don't know any of that shit.
Yeah, like, other than the black hole, which could easily have been another dimension, that's why I like this movie.
I think it was another dimension.
It's more, well, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
That's
Sorry.
really the only space element of it, aside from it being set in space, but the film could function on Earth, which is why I'm saying I like it, because I don't really like science fiction. I don't like alien movies. I don't really like any of that stuff. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. It's not one of my favorites.
Right. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. And the majority of this is filmed at like Pinewood Studio in London. So like,
yeah.
It's funny you say this is like a haunted house film, because the visual effects look like you pay $5 and go through a haunted house that looks like this. It looks like a outer space BDSM swingers club.
Well, there's some elements to that.
I wouldn't be surprised if like there has been a haunted house adaptation of this movie.
Oh yeah.
Also, the sound effects were absolutely terrible.
Okay.
The squish sound effects.
Squish.
So part of that is because of it was 1997.
Right.
Part of that is because it just not all effects are fantastic. But also, this was being filmed by Paramount at the same time Titanic was. And Titanic went so far over budget and got delayed so much that they were originally supposed to release this in August, and they had to push it back to December. And so they bumped up Event Horizon to go in that Titanic spot. So they only had like 4 to 6 weeks of like post-production time to put it all together. Which
That's
normally,
insane.
10 weeks is like standard. So that's part of why some of it doesn't look as good, is because they just didn't have time to do it the way they wanted to do it.
Jesus. All right. That sucks. All right. Well, let's get into this fucking movie.
All right. So we see an intro card, which starts in 2015. So by the logic of this movie, we should have colonized space like
I think it was
4
just
years
the moon,
ago.
but yeah.
Oh,
But
pardon
we
me.
should have colonized the moon by now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Wake up, sheeple.
Yeah.
Maybe we have colonized the moon. Actually, I did watch a movie on Netflix, like when Netflix was like sort of new-ish, but the streaming side of it was new. And it was about how the Nazis didn't get wiped out. They went to the dark side of the moon.
There's a sequel. I love that movie.
They're just.
Oh my God. What's the name of that movie? I've been looking for it recently because it's so bad.
Are they
It's
just waiting
so
there
bad.
plotting?
Yes. And they've been like mining the moon to build up
Yeah, they
resources.
invade the Earth with Nazi spaceships.
Yes.
Moon Nazis?
It's insane. But it's bad. Like it's so
not-
bad you want to make fun of it together with your friends.
I mean, don't-
Look
I
it
think
up.
it's called Iron Sky.
Ooh, that is it. All right, so go ahead, Jen.
All
I don't
right,
know.
so then we see stuff floating through the ship. And look, we can talk for the entire episode about the effects being bad. And
Yeah.
there are maybe a couple of plot holes. I choose to let go of a lot of that stuff because it doesn't take me out of the movie at all.
I don't think the effects really take you out of the story. When I see them, I'm like, ooh, this is really a 90s movie.
Well, and
If that
some
makes
of the
sense.
effects are good and some of them are bad.
Yeah,
It's
there
very
are.
uneven.
Like
you know?
there's a big establishing shot of I think the Event Horizon.
Yeah,
that
over
looks
Earth.
pretty good for 97.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell they're like miniature models and stuff. So that the ships hold up. The ships looked good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait.
I mean, just like
skip the part where the credits were just flushing names down the toilet.
Yeah, that's true. That was very 90s credits. But like in that establishing shot you were talking about, I read somewhere that was like a third of their budget that they spent on that.
The thing about the effects that drives me crazy is like practically, why would you build a spaceship with spikes all on the walls?
Well, the spaceship was designed to look like Notre Dame Cathedral.
Really?
That's why the really long hall,
really long hallway and
you know that cross thing in the hull, and
again,
the
like-
arches with all the blood and gore stuff on them. But yeah, and I really like how the ship looks. It's not the most sciencey, but it's very like evil looking. You know, it's very like Gothic architecture. I really like it.
Yeah, it's just like if I wanted to be on a spaceship, I want it to be like white and bright and like sciencey looking, not like here we go, trying to let's get into this cathedral,
This
go to
ship
Mars.
is evil.
More Star Trek, less the cathedral procedural BDSM. Yeah, I get that.
If there's spikes all over the walls, what if we hit a bump?
You're dead.
I don't know. Those spikes are pretty important to the magnetic flow or something.
But that is a line of dialogue.
It really is.
Like
Oh,
what
yeah.
you just said isn't ridiculous because that's what Sam Neill said
Right.
at one point.
So, Jen, that is science fiction. Is it just
Yeah.
they say some ridiculous bullshit, and you're like,
You're like, oh.
okay, that's why this thing that I hate is existing.
And let me also say, this is one of the first sci-fi movies I had ever seen. And so, yeah.
Really? You've never seen like Star Trek or Star Wars or?
I don't really
Wait,
like
have you seen
sci-fi.
the original Alien?
Yeah, but a couple of years ago. Just it was never a genre I was really drawn to. Like, so anyways, a lot of what I think of as like science fiction is from this movie.
So where are we in the movie?
Opening credits.
Yeah, we're in the title card.
Oh, Jesus.
So we find out that the Event Horizon disappeared. It was trying
in
to
2040.
2040.
7
Yeah.
years ago.
So Sam Neill's looking out the window, and we see the establishing shot we were just talking about, and then we
Yeah.
see he's got like a shrine to some mystery woman with red hair.
His wife.
Yeah. And
Well, I
Todd,
mean,
well,
you
we don't
assume
know
it's
he's
his
his wife
wife.
yet,
Yeah,
but and Todd was like, "Yeah, he likes redheads too."
Yeah, he does. Sam Neill knows how to do it right.
All right, so we got the Lewis and Clark ship, and everybody's getting into stasis, and we start meeting all of our cast of wacky rogue people. We got Morpheus.
Wacky rogue people. We got Morpheus, who is the captain of the ship. Right? Or Larry Fishburne or Cowboy Larry.
Or Lawrence
He looks
Fishburne.
good, man. This
Oh, yeah, he
prime
does.
Larry.
Honestly, he does look real fit and like he looks great in this movie. He
Yeah.
does.
This is right before Morpheus, right? This is like a year
Yeah, I
before.
think it's 2 years before. I think,
99 was the Matrix.
so yeah, it was 2 years before.
Yeah.
But he does look great.
Then we got Sam Neill. We've already seen Sam Neill.
Of course. Yeah, he had just like finished his dinosaur run and then they put him on a spaceship immediately.
I think he chose poorly on this one.
No, dude.
Follow up Jurassic Park?
Well, I mean, it was 3 years later. He did In the Mouth of Madness too, but I'm not sure when that came out.
Yeah, I mean, he peaked at Jurassic Park 1.
Yeah, but if your peak is Jurassic Park,
Yeah,
that's
you're
pretty
crushing it.
fucking amazing. You do
go
whatever
down
you
in-
want.
And yeah, the annals of time.
It's like Elijah Wood. He just does a bunch of horror that he wants to do now, because he's made all of his money in Lord of the Rings. He never has to work again.
He's done horror movies?
Yeah, he's done a lot of indie horror. I think he has a horror production company. But he does small stuff that he just is interesting to him. And we got Draco Malfoy's dad. Just
Holy
Malfoy.
shit, yeah.
Yeah,
He's the
Jason Isaacs.
doctor. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
I wonder if this is what happened. He went to hell and then came back with white hair and evil. That's how he got sorted into the Slytherin house. Although Slytherin is the best house.
Yeah, I was about to say, Slytherin's the only house you want to be in.
So yeah, and then we've got some other people.
I like Draco Malfoy's dad as a doctor because he like always wears gloves and a vest that says I'm a doctor and has like medical equipment. Like,
Yeah, like
also,
scalpels and syringes all over.
I'm
yeah.
just like on a zero gravity spaceship, so why shouldn't I have a vest with knives all over it and scalpels and
Yeah,
He's the only one carrying weapons the entire movie.
that's right. And
Yeah.
he uses them constantly and
He
then just
does.
drops them on the floor. I think he drops every piece of equipment on the floor after
like that
he uses
damn
them.
bone saw had more screen time than half the actors.
That's true.
It did. You're not wrong. Yeah. All right. So we've met our cast of characters. They go into stasis.
Yeah, and then Sam Neill wakes up and he starts just wandering around the ship because everybody else is still in stasis.
Does he wake up or is he dreaming?
Does he? Because he walks and he sees someone with wet curly red hair sitting in the captain's chair, and Dr. Evil turns around and she's got like scary eyes or something.
No, she's no eyes.
Dun, dun, dun. I think it's his dead wife that he's seeing.
Well,
a vision
I mean,
of.
technically, if she's dead, she's his ex-wife.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I mean,
If your wife dies,
No,
is she your ex? Or are you just a widower?
You're a widower.
But is she your ex? Like if you get married
Well, she's
again, are
not
they
your-
both your wife?
not at the same time. I mean, it depends what your religion you are.
She's dead and she's in the chair. And how can that be? And so then he wakes up in his stasis.
Yeah, but this time, okay, so when he wakes up in the dream, he's wearing his oxygen mask.
Yeah.
And then he gets out of the stasis pod and sees his late wife, in the chair, right? And then when he wakes up freaking out, there's no oxygen mask.
Right,
He's just
exactly. I
beating
noticed
on
that
It's
too.
just weird.
It's still
Like,
okay.
how'd you not drown to death?
Listeners,
Right?
in this science fiction realm, they have to go to Neptune for the Event Horizon.
we should have mentioned
And
that.
they're going to go to
Oh,
be
yeah.
exposed to 63 Gs of force. So they have to put themselves in these water tanks with these breath masks for stasis until they wake up by Neptune.
And it's like 53 days or something like that. It's a
something
long ass
ridiculous.
trip. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he does have the mask floating around him, but they're like draining him out.
Well, I imagine he, like, while he was having this dream, he maybe took it off.
Or just knocked it off by mistake or whatever.
In
Yeah,
his
that could
panic.
be.
No,
That
no,
could
no,
be.
definitely not. You don't want the ability to knock off your mask with your 63 days.
Well,
of
then
a
why?
stay in a cage.
Then why did he take it off?
I'm telling you, they were reanimating him, and so it came off because they were getting ready to drain the pod.
So they opened the pod, took it off him, closed the pod, refilled it with water, so he could then scream
No,
and beat on
I'm
the
saying,
glass and
but-
then drain it.
3 seconds before you fall out of the pod, your mask comes out. And then the fact that you two are arguing me about the fucking mask and not the spikes in the walls is driving me crazy.
I love those
We all
spikes,
agree on the
man.
spikes in the
I know.
walls.
I'm not agreeing on the spikes in the walls. I see how this is. This is my personal event horizon.
You have gotten sucked into the black hole of arguing with me.
So anyway, he wakes up from the shit dream where he sees his wife in his chair, and then
Yeah.
They're called nightmares.
I like shit dreams.
Shit dream. I think that implies something different, doesn't it?
Thank God these stasis pods are rubber lined.
Yeah, what do they do with the poo? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay, so then they wake up. Everybody's waking up, and this is when they have the, hey, getting to know you meeting, and they're all sitting around, and he's introducing the crew to Sam Neill.
Can I ask this? If you were about to get on a spaceship with 8 people?
A
Yeah.
good number of people.
Yeah, a good number of people, and you're about to be in a stasis pod next to them for 60 days or 43 days or however many days it takes to get to Neptune in 2047. You're not going to be like, oh, hey, I'm Sam Neill. I'm the guy who created the event
like
horizon.
10
We should talk
minutes
about this.
after walking onto
Right?
the spaceship.
You
Right.
have to get into your underwear to go into stasis. They obviously undressed around each other. There was
We
definitely
watched
small
them
talk.
undress around each other.
They could have
Right.
just done the small talk scene before the stasis. I hate this film.
Yeah.
Small sock scene. You need to
Mikey's
go walk
heated.
it off downstairs.
Now,
Mikey, go downstairs.
like the sun. And Event Horizon, the sun.
I can understand them having a meeting to talk about the specifics of the mission, especially
Sure.
if it's like a classified mission. But you're right. Why are they just now introducing themselves to everybody?
Guys, we've been here for a month and a half. I think it's about time that I tell you my fucking name.
Did we introduce ourselves when we were started this podcast?
Oh, shit. Speaking of that, Jen,
Welcome to the horror version, everybody. Hey, I'm Jen.
Hey, I'm Mikey. It's great to get out of stasis. I had a nightmare.
and I'm the horror virgin Todd.
I've been wandering around the pod loft looking at
my
dead people all day.
God. That could not have happened more perfectly.
I know. Okay, you know why I stopped saying my name is because I was afraid you were going to groan every time I said my name, and then now I just forget to do.
You know, you guys know most people don't hate it when people moan when they say your name.
No, but it was a groan of disgust.
I've never. I don't know what that's like.
They're always growing up disgust.
And followed with, oh, I guess you finished.
Where's my book?
You want a back rub?
I'm headed back to stasis. Gotta get out of here.
All right. So then they're all sitting around and having a meet.
No, I'm just picturing Mikey finishing and being like, I'm heading to stasis. I'll see you
Just
later.
put on my oxygen
You just grab like a big sandwich and go back in.
I just eat my meatball sub, and then I'm just like, yeah. So if you could just like, put those sheets in the dryer, whatever.
I mean, that would be a clear sign that you're afraid of commitment, that you have a little pod that fills up with green liquid every time you have sex.
You don't want to sleep with me? No.
He was real nice, but like after we had sex, he got
went
in
into
this pod
stasis.
with like an air mask and it filled with green liquid. I don't know,
Yeah.
but he's got a good job.
And he's got a dog,
He's got to be nice.
Who takes care of that dog when he's in stasis, though? Maybe that's
You
why
do.
Right. So when I was watching this meeting scene this time, this is when I realized how many times I've seen this movie, because I remembered a lot of this dialogue word for word.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like the layman's terms. That's how I learned what layman's terms were from
I
this
did sort of-
movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I did sort of like this scene because a lot of sci-fi movies like this that deal with like wormholes or whatever, they actually don't say wormholes, but that's sort of what they're making. Anyway, they don't explain the science. They just sort of blah, blah over the science. And I feel like they did a pretty good job of simplifying what the Event Horizon was actually doing and then Sam Neill explaining it, which I liked. Because normally they'll do it like the way Looper does time travel. And I love the way Looper does time travel, but they very much effectively blah, blah the rules, right?
Right.
And I do like that in this one, they explained it. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think so,
Whoever
too.
wrote this did, I think, a good job with that scene at
Yeah,
least.
this introduction / exposition scene is nice because they're like,
It is
we
sort of
don't
an
believe
exposition,
that the Event Horizons are right. They're like, well, the story the government told was a lie.
Well,
Yeah.
the story that the government told was that it exploded and just like evaporated or whatever.
Well, and so this is when, because they still don't know what they're doing, and none of the crew wants to be there because they were supposed to be on leave, and they got pulled back into this meeting because they're the only crew that could have handled it, man. And so they're asking Sam Neill what's happening, and he says, well, we just got a signal from Event Horizon, and they all got really upset because they've been told, like you just said, that it blew up.
They
And
all
now-
get up and like, whatever, man, you're fucking lying. Like some of them, like the rescue guy gets up and like starts to walk away. Where's he gonna go?
he gonna
You're on
go?
a spaceship.
You're in space. Yeah.
Fuck it, I'm walking home.
But Lawrence Fishburne's like, sit down, let the man
As
talk.
you were, sailor.
All right, but he's real cranky about being there the whole time.
I feel you.
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne is just real salty in this movie.
He's
I like
great
it.
though. I think he does a great
is.
job. I don't think the movie is great, but I think him and the blonde chick that
Jolie
survives-
Richardson?
right? I think they do a great job.
I thought Sam Neill did a good job.
I think Sam Neill was fine. I think just because I've seen him do so much better work, I didn't think he did great.
I didn't like him in this until he goes full on evil demon guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he does a good job once he makes the switch.
Well, and here's the thing, because I don't necessarily think it's the acting. I think the script of this movie is pretty bad. Like, I think it's melodramatic in
Yes.
places.
And I will agree with that, even though I literally just said the script in that one scene was good. But I do agree there are some places that it's pretty weak.
This
Yeah, just
whole
lines of
movie
dialogue.
reminds me of like me playing with my space Legos, and this was like the plot
Oh
I
my
came up with.
God.
You used your Notre Dame set from your space
I'm
Legos.
using the castle to put in the I'm like, the crystal opened up to hell and everybody's crazy now. You got to get off the ship, and it blows up.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you just stomp all over it.
And my
yeah.
mom's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, creativity.
Okay, so then he's talking about what the point of the Event Horizon was, and they just lost it because it went through not a wormhole, but it bent the space-time continuum or
Yeah,
whatever.
it sort of
wormhole.
sounds
Yeah.
like a wormhole where they like just bend things together. If you've seen the scene, you know what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
he folds a piece of paper and sticks a pencil through it, and is like, "This is what we're doing."
Right. And they use that same metaphor and the same demonstration in in Interstellar.
Yes.
And I think it's this. And part of the reason I think they explain this science is because this is an actual theory that people have projected.
Yeah, I think so too.
Proposed. I don't think it's anywhere near being
I'm
like
sure it's theoretical,
proved. Yeah. But so that's why I think a lot of it makes sense. And
Honestly, beat for beat, this whole movie makes complete sense to me. Scientifically,
I love it.
This
Flawless.
happens. Yeah, it's flawless. Mikey, it's a great movie. I don't really see it so much as a movie as I see it as a documentary about what happens when you travel through wormholes.
yeah, it's like Back to the Future. Documentary on
Mikey
science.
is so mad
I'm
right
having
now.
an aneurysm.
This movie was just an RDA short of a great movie.
Yeah.
RDA being Richard Dean
If they would
Anderson.
step in,
I love Richard Dean
I
Anderson.
know, and he has a wormhole show, Stargate.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I wish that opened.
Is
never
the
seen
Stargate the
Stargate?
wormhole?
We've
Yeah.
never done Stargate.
No.
You've never
Welcome
seen
to
I
the
don't
Stargate
like
version,
science
everybody.
fiction.
Stargate was on Showtime for like 30 years.
I remember it. I just didn't ever watch. I'm telling you, I'm just not into sci-fi.
Honestly, once RDA left, it's not worth watching. All right, so we're still 2 minutes into this movie.
Well, okay, so now they're talking about how if the ship disappeared, what happened to the crew?
Right.
Because they've gotten a distress signal from the Event Horizon that just reappeared, and they play what the distress signal is, and it's just a bunch of screaming, but Lucius Malfoy is like, hold on, I think I hear a human voice, and they slow it down, and he hears this Latin that says Liberate, May. And so he's like, I think that means...
Save me.
They're
Save
listening
me.
to Liberace.
Liberace. Liberace, yeah.
There, Annie Wilkson it up. I'm just going to put my Liberace on.
They didn't get in the Conkaduty spaceship.
Right.
Oh, dear God. But yeah, so this is after 7 years of it being disappeared. It comes back
Right.
and then plays his distress message. So then they go into the clouds of Neptune to dock with...
I can't.
I know, this part made me mad too.
So
You
they,
guys got so persnickety about
We did.
this
I mean,
weather.
we really did. We were.
Like, what the
I had to
fuck?
look up the gravity on Neptune.
Yeah. And then that's when everyone learned that Neptune is a gas giant planet.
I knew it was a gas giant.
I was the one that didn't own that, but I did learn that even though it is a gas giant, it has the gravity of Earth.
Here's why I'm mad. Okay, the Event Horizon is stuck in a thunderstorm above Neptune.
Right.
And the other ship, the Julie Clark.
No, Lewis and Clark.
Lewis and Clark.
It hits turbulence in space.
Scientifically, this part doesn't hold up, but then
Yeah.
we're about to talk about a black hole creating the hell dimension. So
Exactly,
yeah,
so.
we're gonna have to move on.
More
right.
believable.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so they have docked with the Event Horizon
Space
and
docked.
space docked.
It does look very sexual.
Guys, Urban Dictionary space docking.
Oh no,
all
Mom,
the
do
time?
not Google this.
Power to dock in space.
Space docking. All right, so they're looking around for the Event Horizon and they see this stuff. They said it's really cold and nobody could really sustain life in this ship before they even get on. They're trying to look for life forms and they can't find anybody. So they know they've got to go just look room for room, trying to find either bodies or the people that in the crew that are supposed to be on the ship.
And they want to get to the what do they call that? The bridge or like
Yeah.
Yeah, the bridge.
Yeah, because they want to get the like recorder. It's like
Right, like
trying
the
to find the
black
black box. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
so they
three of
go-
them go on board.
It's Justin and I think Lawrence Fishburne and I
And
think
one of the
the
ladies.
lady doctor, Mama Doctor.
Oh, is she a doctor?
Yeah, I think she's one of the
I
other
didn't realize
doctors.
that. Oh, that would make sense because she's hanging out in the medical
she's
bay.
just like a
Yeah.
sciencey.
That's
person.
fine too. I think she might be a doctor because she hangs out in the medical bay on the other ship.
No, she just holds the bone saw for half the film.
I mean, is she the nurse?
Ladies can be
can't say.
doctors too, Jen.
Especially in space, man.
She
I
didn't
know.
have her doctor
It
vest.
is 2047 and Jen doesn't believe women can be doctors.
Well, this actually takes place after The Handmaid's Tale.
This is post patriarchy. So yeah, they're wandering around and they're seeing like a floating hand that scared the shit out of Todd.
yeah, it did scare the shit out of me. There are so many
was a glove.
unnecessary
It
jump
wasn't a hand.
scares.
Yeah, it wasn't even a hand. There's like the coke.
There
the
was no
bottle.
hand in it?
No, it was just a glove.
It had the middle finger sticking up and it just glided by Todd. And then there's a bottle of coconut water that's
It
wandering
does
around.
look like coconut water.
Okay.
Yeah.
This whole they're cutting between people tramping around the ship, and there's like a coolant leak, and so they step in these puddles or move these puddles. So, but the sound effect is so bad, so they're like, let's move this puddle.
But
Yeah.
they look like the Abyss. Like, have you seen the
Yeah.
movie The Abyss?
Oh,
It
it's
looks
one
like the
of my
water
favorite
from The
movies of all
Abyss.
time.
Yeah, I know, but the effects of the water don't look great in that movie. It looks like the creature that takes the shape of water.
It still looks better than this film's water.
No, it does. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This film looks like a low rent version of the Abyss effect.
Yeah. And so
It would
Justin.
look better if it didn't get a cartoon wet noise.
Yeah.
Oh, let me move the guys. The Event Horizon's all abandoned. Hold on, I gotta move this coolant. Any chance to do Foley work?
Yeah, you really
Foley
love your
work.
Foley work.
Okay, so then they're wandering around and they're seeing crazy stuff, and we keep seeing like lightning flashes where we see the gore in the windows, and not everybody sees it just yet. It looks
Blood
like a
and
body
stuff.
exploded in each one of these things, and all the shit just froze there.
And there's bones stuck to the. And like, as soon as you see that, I'd be like, well, let's not look for the crew because it's 7 years later. There's 3 exploded bodies against the wall.
Yeah, I don't want to know what happened. Let's
Yeah.
Wrap it up,
GTFO.
boys.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's get out of here.
Well, and so then they're wandering around, and we see the floating, cut up guy that we've seen from before. At the very beginning, he was floating around the Event Horizon, and he like kind of sneaks right up behind the mom. Only he's not sneaking up; he's just floating around. But this is when we see him.
I do like the pilot for the Lois and Clark because the whole movie, he like immediately when they get on the Event Horizon, he's like, no, fuck this. I'm out. This
Right.
is stupid. We're getting off this ship immediately.
Exactly. I like to think he was the Todd of that mission.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Well, there's one scene where he just straight up leaves a chick. And I was like, yeah, I get that. I
Yeah.
would have left that chick.
Yeah, Todd
Yeah.
would have burned both of those spaceships down.
Burn it. Yeah.
So then Justin goes into this tunnel that's like the meat grinder tunnel, which is just
It
like
looks
a
like
bunch
those
of
things at carnivals where they just have like a walkway in between a circle and then it spins and it's hard to walk straight. It's like a weird sort of fun, not really that fun thing, but it looks just like that, but a meat grinder.
It
Yeah.
looks like a meat grinder. And he's like, why would you put a meat grinder in your ship?
I kind of think Sam Neill just kind of likes like kind of quasi evil looking things. Like I feel like if I designed a spaceship, maybe it would look a little like this.
You don't
know?
even like sci-fi. You wouldn't
I
design a
know.
spaceship.
Well, but if I ever did, I would definitely use my spiky Legos and like my meat grinder attachments.
I
You
don't
know.
think Legos, as a rule, have spikes. I don't
That's
think any of
true,
them
yeah.
do because they're
Oh,
for
yeah,
kids.
man. They have some spikes.
All right. So, yeah, Justin goes into the core.
Yeah, and so then we see this thing, and it looks like the thing from the end of 13 Ghosts, and it's like what we find out are 3 gravitational fields rotating around this little
It's a
ball in the middle.
sphere and 3 gyroscopes circling it.
And they eventually rotate so that they're all making one circle right next to each other, and a bunch of lights go on, and the core turns black in the middle. And Justin's like, ooh, pretty colors. I'm going to go stick my finger in it.
He goes and finger bangs the core.
Yeah, and he like goes up in there with like pretty good technique.
Yeah. And then he sticks his whole hand in.
Yeah.
And then he tries to pull his hand
And
out.
then he just pumps it. You know, I was like, oh, do not. He fisted hell.
Yeah, he did fist hell, but hell got him back by pulling him into it. Yeah.
Well, when you fist hell fists harder.
Hell will fist you back.
I was about to say that exactly.
Yeah.
So he gets sucked into hell's vagina, and then the rescuer from Lois and Clark. I'm just picturing Jimmy Olsen running out.
Oh, yeah.
So the
It's Cooper is his name.
nice.
Yeah.
So Cooper runs from the Lewis and Clark because his job is to save people. He's the rescuer.
Right.
So
and
he goes.
everybody's attached to a cord, too. So
Yes.
they can tell he's in trouble because it's cord, kind of like in The Mist. missed, his cord just gets jerked out really.
And that's how
really
you know
fast.
that this crew is amateur hour, because they have one assigned guy to rescue them when they get in trouble when they go on ships.
Okay, but if the rescue guy had gotten pulled into that ship vagina, do you think he would have been able to rescue anybody else? No.
So anyway, Cooper goes running towards the black hole vagina.
And I love how he's doing it because he's floating in gravity and he's pulling himself along on that cord. I was like, that would be so fun.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. There's a scene where Lawrence Fishburne's doing more or less the same thing outside. But anyway, so he gets almost to the black hole, and then what's his name?
Justin.
And then
Baby
Justin.
Bear.
Yeah. Baby Bear's out right at him.
The youngest crew member.
Yes.
So they call him Baby Bear.
He does look like he's about 20. Like he does look quite a bit
He looks
younger.
like Bon Jovi's younger brother.
Honestly, yeah. So he gave Love a bad name. So hell threw him back out of the hole, and then he kind of hugs onto Cooper. He hugs onto Cooper, and then they fall down, almost narrowly missing the spikes that are on the outside of that core room.
Yeah.
This is his first hole, so he comes out of it a different man.
He went through the change for sure.
Dead or alive.
He's wanted.
Yeah.
Like Richie Sambora. Dead or alive. And you don't know if he's dead or alive because he is sort of lifeless. He's in like a catatonic state.
Yes.
So anyway, the gravity gets restored. Cooper brings Justin back to the med bay on the ship. So, we forgot to mention that there's when the core goes off like that and Justin goes inside of it, it sets off an explosion on the ship.
Yes.
And it causes the Lewis and Clark to become unusable, and they have to get off of it.
Yes.
So they get off the Lewis and Clark and get onto the Event Horizon. Even the pilot. And the pilot's like, no, fuck, I don't want to be on that ship. And then Larry...
he's giving her all she's got, but it won't work, and he's got to get onto the ship.
You know there's an explosion because sparklers go off throughout all the ships.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not wrong. But I did like those scenes because a lot of the actors did their own stunts in this movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Which was
they probably
pretty
couldn't
impressive.
afford a bunch
That may be.
Yeah.
But I do think you have a lot of big, great actors in here.
Yeah, I think so too.
And they are acting up a storm
they sell it.
above Neptune.
Maybe that's where the storm came from.
I found it, guys. I found the joke.
But I mean, like, sparklers are going off and they're acting the shit out of the sparklers. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, that looks so dumb, but you're selling it.
Sparklers
Yeah,
are
they sold it for me. They sold it for me.
Well, because the ship doesn't actually explode. I think what happens is there's a breach in the hull.
There is. And it's leaking air.
Yeah, and it's depressurizing.
You're talking like you know a lot of science fiction, Mr. Holbreach.
It's Dr. Holbreach.
Yeah.
Mikey.
And also, if it wasn't Doctor, it would be Mrs., not Mr.
Yeah, I didn't go to 8 years of evil Dr. Mrs. Science medical school. They take Justin into the medical bay and they lay him on a bed of roses. That joke is hilarious. Man, you just don't know that song. That's why you don't get it.
But that's when Cooper then moves up. Well, I say upstairs, but he moves to the outside of the Lois and Clark, trying to fix the hull. So that becomes his job.
Yeah, he welds like it's the very first time. That's for sure.
He does.
He's like, that looks about right.
It looks like if they were like, Michael, weld this ship up. And I'm like,
and I think the pilot guy, the guy who's not Lucius Malfoy but looks like him, the guy who wears crosses and onks all the time, he's out there helping too. And he's like, I just don't want to be inside that ship. I'd rather be in space all day.
It literally looks like they're making a quilt out there.
It does. When they show it, it is literally like a patchwork of steel, like a quilt. Yes.
Now, I will say that is very accurate to how you would weld a spaceship outside of Neptune.
Who are you?
So I really like the facts of this movie.
That's not Neptune lightning proof welding.
So anyway, so Cooper goes outside and starts welding the Lewis and Clark because they only have like 17 hours of air.
Yeah, 20 hours, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so they have 20 hours of air, which is like the ticking clock, if you will, of this movie.
We have set a ticking clock.
Mikey is so mad.
I hate you guys.
All right, so they're talking about, because I think at this point, they're like, why the fuck would Justin go in there? And Lawrence Fishburne has seen the Burning Man just a little bit in this black hole.
Oh, that's right. He saw it when he went to the black hole.
Right, so they're going in to investigate, and they're starting to ask Sam Neill, like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this ship weird?
Yo, this ship sucks, man. Why does it look like a cathedral?
Yeah.
Because their other ship actually looks like a spaceship, and
It does.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer.
Lawrence Fishburne has that hanging chair.
Yeah, it is
that
pretty
shit's
awesome.
Dope.
All right, so
So Sam Neill starts explaining the ship and how the ship works.
and what it's doing is creating an artificial black hole. And they're like, why the fuck would you want to do that? Those things are uncontrollable and terrible.
And they apparently are, but he explains that we just needed something with a massive amount of power, like a black hole,
to suck us into this thing.
Right, and we figured out a way to harness it. We needed that much power to kind of bend space.
Right.
As you do.
So Dr. Mom is tending to not Bon Jovi in Justin on the
Justin.
bed of
He's
roses.
catatonic, just laying there.
Yeah.
His vitals are stable, and they're like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with him.
But yeah, so Justin's laying on the bed of roses. Dr. Mom's in there, but so is Doctor. Lucius Malfoy's in there, and he's doing the scan on him. And this is when he says he could wake up in 10 minutes, he could wake up in 10 years, he could never wake up. We just don't know because he's in this catatonic type state.
Right.
And then I think he tells Dr. Mom to hang out with Justin.
Yes.
On the bed of roses.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense because he's the doctor.
Well,
I think
he is
she's
the
a doctor too.
I think she is. Maybe
Yeah.
just a nurse.
And it would
Jen.
make sense. And it would make sense to have two doctors on your ship because if something happens to the doctor, then you're fucked.
Who doctors the doctor, Mikey?
Yeah, physician, heal thyself.
He bones out. He goes somewhere.
He does.
And then she's just hanging out with Justin.
And she hears some creepy noise and she looks over and there's this green medical tent that somebody's
It's
like their fingers on it. Yeah.
Yeah. But and the tent wasn't there before, right? Like when they go into the ship before, the tent's not there.
It's a ghost tent.
There's no tent in the medical bay of the spaceship.
I know,
Yeah.
right? That seems super weird.
Well, if you wanted to quarantine somebody, I guess you would use a tent. But
Or
I
you just
mean,
put them in the airlock and suck them into space.
exactly. Or in their stasis tube. I don't know. I don't know the technicalities of space, and this movie is really.
I'm pretty sure you were right.
I'm always right, so yeah. But anyways, so then she goes in and it's her son. And they've talked a little bit about how she didn't want to be in this mission and they tried to get a replacement and her ex is going to take her son for the holidays.
Yeah.
And he's
Well,
paralyzed.
for Christmas. And he's in a
Yeah.
wheelchair. That's right. I forgot about that.
And so we see him and his legs are all covered with sores
They
and
have, like,
maggots
lesions
and
or
stuff.
something. Yeah.
And so it's just playing on her mom guilt of not being able to be with her son. And then we cut away.
Do you know what you don't need in space? Legs. She should have brought her son with her.
Hot take from
You
Todd.
just float around.
Oh, and then so this is when they go investigate the core, and they're looking around, and they're like, "What the fuck with all these spikes?" And Sam Neill was like, "No, it's important to the structure."
Oh,
of
was
the
this when they
thing."
open up that panel and he goes inside it and
Yeah.
there's like circuit board walls and shit?
Yeah, it's like green circuit board maze, and they're crawling through, and they open it up, and all this green gas just floats out. So of course you get right into that.
I like this part because it's the
I love
most
this
color
part.
in the whole film.
Anyway, so Sam Neill's in the circuit board hallways, like crawling around like he's Bruce Willis in an air vent.
Yeah.
And he's like found the panel he wants to get to and he's like fucking with it or whatever.
Go to space. It's gonna be really nice.
I got a panel now. Ho, ho, ho. And so it's green lights, and the green lights keep just like flonking. Flonking's not a word. Like,
Yeah, they're flocking
Fly-
right at us. They're
Yeah, I hate
flocking
when my
in.
lights flonk on and off. It's
I
the
know.
worst.
I hope I flonk at least twice this week.
Oh man, it's been so long since I flonked.
oh my God, I say one word and I unleash this. Is that like the Fraggle word for sex?
Yes, down at Flonk and Rock.
They go up to the trash heap and she's like, "Don't flonk without protection."
Anyway, so he's trying to fix that panel, and the lights are, I think the word you meant to say were like strobing on and off. or-
Because it's not really flashing. It's
No,
like,
it's
flonking.
like they're yeah, they're flonking, guys. The flonking. I'll look it up, guys.
Look, that's the science word for
Yeah,
it,
in
okay?
space, if you have epilepsy, you're pretty fucked.
and flonk.
You're flonked.
Yeah.
You're flonked. So what flonking means in space is the lights go out in sections.
Yes.
And then come back on in sections.
Chasing you.
Yes.
Yes.
So as they're going on and off, his flashlights are actually going on and off too.
Flashlight's flonking too.
And he starts hearing his wife, who is definitely not flonked in a while. So she is all around him, and he hears her from like all sides, and he starts trying to get out, but then gets lost in the circuit board maze.
Right.
And this part scared the shit out of me because
Yeah.
it was like she wasn't there, she wasn't there, she wasn't there. Lights are going off, on, and then boom. She's like right in his face, and her eyes are gone.
Yeah.
And all you see are like the sockets.
They're like, no, I think they're like black. Sometimes they're like black glazed, like shark eyes, and sometimes it's socket eyes.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm not sure if this time it was socket or black
It was
eyes.
socket
but
this
Either.
time.
It
Yeah, I
was
think you're
sockets?
right.
Okay.
And you know she's going to appear right behind him.
Yes, and she does, and it still scared the shit
See,
out
it
of me.
didn't scare me because I was like, why would you build a corridor? Like, you can't crawl on computer boards.
Mikey, why would you have a CD-ROM drive in 2047?
They have
There are
7 because I need to make 7 copies.
Oh my god. Yeah. Anyway, so I think, and this is maybe a hot take, but I think this is when he becomes possessed. From this point on, he is working as and for the ship.
I don't know, because I think it's later on when his eyes get pulled
Yeah, I
out.
think it's
which
later
is
on when he pulls his
act-
own eyes out.
But this is when he starts down the road.
because he pulls his eyes out after he says, "I already am home."
That's true.
Okay, hear me out.
Okay.
He was still very concerned about that woman who died in that room until he
True.
pulled his eyes out.
His wife or what?
He still
Significant
had
other.
no the other crew member.
Oh, I got you. Sorry.
So he was still showing empathy and like sympathetic emotions and things like that, not evilness.
I think he was playing them.
When we see Justin in a few scenes in the airlock, we see him that he seems to be possessed by the ship, and then he snaps back to himself.
Right, exactly.
So maybe this is one of the first times, and he just kind of goes in and out of his own consciousness. But yeah, I think this is when he starts to realize there's something. Also, he designed the ship, so part of me is thinking, was he actually designing it to go to the stars, or was he trying to make an evil ship? You know,
I don't think he was trying to make an evil ship.
He was making a ship to go to his dead wife.
she killed herself while he was working on the ship, and that's why, because he was preoccupied with the Event Horizon.
If your husband's not paying attention to you because he's like really busy at work, just divorce him.
So, and then he gets out of the circuit board maze, I think, and then this is when Morpheus starts to see the fireman rising up from the water around the core or something.
It's all cutting in, but like they're all seeing this at the same time.
Right.
The gate is like making a weird thing or whatever.
Splonking. So they all come back together in their meeting, and they're starting to.
Are they in the medical bay at this point?
I think so. They're in some kind of.
They're like a spaceship-y.
They might be on the bridge.
Yeah.
Also, the spaceship has a long hallway for no reason.
No, they explain that.
Yeah, they explain that. The long hallway is to keep the lifeboat part of it away from the core part of it.
That creates a dimension into hell.
Right.
Yeah.
Just make it detachable like the Enterprise D.
I mean, that's sort of what they've done is make it detachable through the series of explosions.
Or you could just be like, detach.
Yeah.
Like a button.
But they didn't do it that way. They just did it through explosions.
He's a terrible ship designer.
I'm not saying we should take a trip aboard the Event Horizon. I'm just saying that that's the way it is in the movie.
Even if hell wasn't there, it's very badly designed.
Oh, no, I like it. It's got spikes and flonks.
That's like if I like had a trailer and I was hauling a boat and I was like, we gotta get the boat trailer off. We gotta blow it up.
So you just put a bunch of bombs in the connection between the trailer and the boat? Yeah.
You just like tie a bunch of M80s to the...
Can we just detach it? No, we've got to light the fuse and it's got to blow up and that's how we detach.
It's the only logical solution.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Guys, that's how we do it. So what are they talking about in this
They're
scene?
talking about how they're starting to say the things that they've seen. And they're like, dude, we're all not crazy. We're seeing shit. We know the ship is fucked up. Nobody likes it.
This is when the pilot, they're like, have you seen anything? He's like, the pilot's like, no, I haven't seen anything, but I want to get the fuck off this ship.
Yeah, I don't need to see anything to know that this is a fucked up ship.
He's the only one who looks in the background of the scene and sees the body parts splayed across the walls. Is like, maybe it's all fucked up anyway. We should get out of here.
Yeah,
Right.
that's definitely the me of this movie.
Is on the window somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to go.
All right, and then this is when Jolie Richardson, she comes up and she's like, this ship is alive. It seems to be reacting to us. The reactions are getting
That's the only logical explanation that I have. I know it doesn't make any sense, but that's the only thing that's like logically makes sense.
Which is also quite a jump and doesn't logically make sense.
Right.
Well, but that's what I've been saying to Mikey this whole time. Like, I don't understand it, but that's the only logical explanation for it. So here you go.
Yeah, and if I was the captain, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna need you to like not tell me that ever again.
Yeah, but which one of us survives at the end of the movie?
Because I sacrificed myself to save you.
You should be thanking him.
Oh, I did. So this is when we see Dr. Mom, and she's still tending to Justin, who's laying on his bed of roses.
Is this when she's pacing back and forth?
Yeah.
And then you see him on the thing, on the bed of roses.
Yeah.
And then she walks past and walks back into frame. He's still on the bed of roses, walks past, goes
then
back.
it's a
and
bed
he's
of
gone.
nails.
No, he's just gone.
Oh. So he gets up, and then we don't know, and we didn't hear him get up or anything. And so then she panics and runs to the rest of the crew, and they're talking, and she doesn't say Justin's gone. Like, it takes them a couple of minutes to deal with the fact that Justin has just disappeared from the bed of roses he's been laying
She didn't want to
on.
interrupt their conversation. She's like,
Right. Well, and he's like, just breathe. And then she calms down. She's like, okay, what's happening, guys?
How you guys doing?
Right.
Oh, hey, by the way, Justin's gone. What?
And so
baby bear.
this baby bear, mama bear thing.
I didn't understand that at all.
She is a mother. He's young, and they just have kind of a mother-son connection.
Like an Oedipal
know
type
why you guys
connection?
Like an
making-
Oedipal. Yeah, she's divorced.
Why you guys got to make it weird? I
Because it was weird in the movie.
think Cooper calls him baby bear.
Well, I
I think
don't
that's just
judge
what they
people.
call
I think
him.
that's his nickname, but why does he call her Mama Bear?
Yeah.
Maybe she is a mama bear.
I don't judge. Whatever they want to do.
Anyway, so she's
Right.
definitely fucking Justin.
I don't think she's fucking Justin.
I'm just joking.
But she does love it. I think she feels very protective of Justin. I
That's
think the whole
probably true.
ship does because he's the youngest.
Yeah, it is sort of like he's the kid brother of the ship.
Exactly.
Yeah, the whole ship's
yeah,
having
yeah.
sex with Justin.
Yeah. No.
So the Event Horizon definitely fucked him though.
I know it gives love a bad name.
Oh my god. Anyway, so Justin goes to the airlock, and that's when they kind of catch up with them.
Right. Without a suit on.
Yes. So he gets in the airlock without a suit on and then starts sort of the airlock procedures.
Yeah. And Lawrence Fishburne and Cooper are outside trying to fix the hull of the ship.
In space.
And so he starts the airlock procedures and they're trying to override it. And they're like, he can't. And Justin's just staring out the window and we can't see his face yet. And he's not responding to anything. So they're trying to open the door, but he's done the override thing. So they can't.
Yeah, but they're still trying to override the override. I don't remember their names, but Mama Bear, as she refers to herself, is talking to Justin, and the other blonde is trying to override the door. She must be sort of an engineer on some level.
I think she is.
Anyway, so she's working on that. He is, so it's like a ticking clock type situation because Lawrence Fishburne is trying to race to the outside of the ship where the airlock is.
He turns around and he starts talking about what he saw in the darkness.
Yeah, his possessed voice. He's like, well, I saw things in the darkness.
He's come alive. I think when Dr. Weir was in the green maze and he was like, the darkness. And then he like gets catatonic
At some point he had a
again.
seizure too.
This is not the first time we've seen him talk about the darkness, but now he's walking up to the window and he's looking at him and it's like, I just don't want to go back to the darkness. And if you'd seen what I'd seen, you wouldn't try to stop me.
I have the dark inside me.
I'll say this. I love the Darkness. They're an amazing band. Check them out. They actually have a song called One Way Ticket to Hell and Back. And I feel like that should have been the song in this movie. Yeah.
Do you think that song was inspired by this movie?
No. It's a ridiculous song called One Way Ticket to Hell and Back, which doesn't make any sense.
Oh, because it's only a one-way ticket?
Right.
I think you like the darkness because they sing high and you can sing high.
Oh, yeah, dude. You should hear me do karaoke. When I do I Believe in a Thing Called Love at karaoke, there is not a wet panty in the house.
There isn't a wet panty in the house.
All right, so he's in the air. Justin's in the airlock, and he's talking about the darkness. He's like, check them out. They have like 3 really great albums.
Yeah, there's a song about hell and back, man.
It's written in my notebook.
And at this point, like, they're trying to race to open the door. Mama Bear is trying to like talk him down.
Yeah,
because
like,
he
this
could just
isn't you
open
talking.
the airlock from the inside and walk out of
There's
it.
2 buttons. She's like, touch the good button.
Yeah.
And Lawrence Fishburne's trying to get there on the outside of the ship, sort of a race against him opening the airlock. And then he hits the outdoor so they can no
he's
longer.
going to hit the good one.
I never thought that. But yeah, they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
And that's what they think he's going to do. And at the last minute, he's like, no, death first.
Yeah.
And then he starts to go out the airlock.
And then this is really sad because then he wakes up and he's like, what the fuck? Why am I in the airlock? What's
'cause
going
it's got like a 30-second
on?
countdown.
He has
Right.
night terrors.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just sleepwalked into this airlock. But yeah, he's like, what the hell's going on? Open the door. Why can't you open the door? Mama Bear, what am I doing? It's really sad.
And then it starts to open, and like it opens in a way that like it depressurizes first, so he starts losing blood out of his eyes and stuff. And
Right.
Lawrence Fishburne's
He's just
talking
living
to him
on a prayer.
Yeah.
And it sucks because he knows exactly what's going to happen, you know? And at this point, Lawrence Fishburne is halfway there.
Yeah.
And he's just zooming through.
Yes.
I see what's happening. Anyway, so Lawrence Fishburne gets set up outside the airlock.
Side note, Lawrence Fishburne looks like he's going down a gigantic McDonald's slide to race to this airlock.
It sort of does. So anyway, Lawrence Fishburne gets set up outside the airlock. The airlock fully opens, and he starts to like float outside the airlock where all the blood's being like pulled out of his body. And Lawrence has already told him to like flush his lungs out to get all the air out of his lungs.
Yeah, and he's like perched and he's about to like push himself off and push him back into the airlock.
And that's exactly what happens. They end up in the airlock. They both kind of re-pressurize or whatever. And Justin isn't dead, but he's like in bad shape.
like all fucked up.
Justin didn't do well with this movie.
No. I mean, he actually did survive. Like, he's one of the 3 that make it, but he is the worst off of the 3 that make it.
All right, so now Morpheus is like, for real, Sam Neill, what the fuck is going on with the ship? And he's like, wait, I don't know where she went. I don't know what happened. It's just all messed up, but we're trying to figure it out.
He's like, it's a surprise.
And he's getting a little, like, progressively more suspicious throughout the movie.
I think at this point, I do think he is possessed. He's just putting on a show. And or, like Justin, this is one of his lucid moments. He's not actually acting as the ship. He's acting as true Sam Neill.
Right. He's like, I don't know. I can't explain this. And I think it's like the turning point for him is really when he starts to go into the green maze. I think you're right about that.
Hot take from Mikey here. He sees her at the beginning of the film and she says, come find me. Do you think that was hell reaching out for him? I mean, I think his motivation is seeing his wife. So I don't think he's actually possessed till he crawls his own eyes
So that
out.
dream was a phone call from hell?
Hey, hi, this is hell. Will you accept the charges?
Area code 666. So then Lawrence Fishburne is wandering through the corridors and he starts to hear these this voice saying, don't leave me, don't leave me. And then I don't think he actually sees the man at this point.
No, he puts his head against the wall and says this isn't real. And I really like this scene because it
This
shows
scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I think we got a video of this.
because he flashes a little bit, but he's like, I know this isn't real. And then he is a badass who's like understands what's going on. He's like, I got to pull it together.
Right. But what he's flashing to are these just terrible visions of like awfulness.
They flash in a way that's very, very jump scary. And I hate that shit. Like this movie, without the, I will say, cheap jump scares, is not a scary movie.
Yeah, it's got a lot of gross imagery.
Yeah, gross doesn't.
It's very bloody, and I've got some fun facts about that too.
Gross isn't as scary to me as jump scares are.
See, and gross is what gets me. I don't like the gory stuff. And that's part of the reason I think this movie is really effective for me, is because it's just really bloody and gory, and there's like skin and blood and gross stuff. But I like this because it's when he like puts his head against the ship, and that's when he sees the visions, and it's like the ship is connecting like
through his third eye. Yeah.
The chakra.
Honestly, that's what Justin gave the black hole.
We don't want to see what he saw. So then he's talking to Lucius Malfoy, and he's telling him the story about how this other ship he was the commander of, there was fire on the ship, and he had to get the crew out. And if he rescued this one guy, then his whole crew was going to die, or like depressure the ship or something. So he had to leave this guy behind, and this guy was on fire and calling to him and saying, don't leave me. And so now we know this is the man that they've been seeing.
Have you ever seen fire in space?
I have. It's like
beautiful.
water.
It's beautiful.
I remember, like, I was like, oh, maybe it is. I'm telling you, all my space facts come from this movie.
Also, fire can't exist in space because
that's right, because of oxygen.
It can inside the ship, but they can easily put fire out in a ship because you can just vent it.
You flunk it out. It's fine.
I think why I don't like this movie because it's like reminds me of like a cheap sequel to like Hellraiser. Hellraiser in space.
There's a lot of like Hellraiser images, and that's why I recommended Clive Barker, because Clive Barker wrote Hellraiser. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and this is when
He's
he says,
whoa, man, have you been to Burning Man before?
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
He's like, I'm just like blowing my mind.
It's hell, man. Okay, and so then this is when Lucius Malfoy is like, hold on, I think I fucked up the Latin. It's not liberate me, it's liberate tute me, which doesn't mean save me, it means save yourself.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think the ship may have gone to like a hell dimension.
Yeah, that's exactly what you jump to.
And he's,
Well, no, it says that. The Latin goes on to say something about hell.
Save ourselves from hell. And then our power went out.
It was like power went out twice, and both times it was very eerie when the power went out.
Yeah, because the first time, so we had a storm while we were watching this movie, and the power kept going out.
We actually were in a tornado warning.
Oh, were we really?
Yeah.
Was it a Neptune tornado?
We were actually on Neptune, and there was a tornado warning.
I knew they were real. Jolie Richardson, the first time it said,
who I have a major crush on in this movie.
She's very pretty.
She knows all the science facts
and she's
too.
super smart.
I'm not super into blondes, but she's pretty in this movie.
So she has said he was talking about seeing the darkness, and that's when our power went out the first time.
Yeah, well, that's what she was saying.
Yeah, she was saying.
And listen, I've seen The Darkness live a few times. It is amazing. I get it.
And the next time it went out, Lucius Malfoy had just said, no, I think Morpheus said, from hell. And then our power went out too. Then they cut back to Pilot Todd, who's on the ship, and he's like, okay, I think we're ready to go. Let's test it. So they got to test out this welding patchwork quilt thing they've done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they realize, okay, it's almost there, but we need to just blindly weld some more shit for like...
like, do another layer.
Right, like for 20 minutes.
There's glue and welding and like foam, and I'm like...
Just dump all the rest of the glue out on it.
The welding guns are like super intense nail guns.
Yeah.
And they're just like puncturing the ship with these super intense nail guns. It's insane.
That doesn't make sense.
But the guy who's on the outside, Cooper, who's on the outside, is like, give me 20 more minutes. I got this shit.
Yeah. Because they've tested it and they found that it was leaking. Yeah.
But it's funny because in the back, he's like, see this? 20 more minutes, this is all sealed up. It looks like a jalopy spaceship in the background.
Yeah.
I got like 40 more nails, and I'm just going to shoot it around in a circle.
It's like a car with like Bondo on a door.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like
it's like they took a Honda Civic and like a Buick and welded it together.
So then Dr. Mom and Jolie Richardson are at the bridge, and she's been trying to take this video that they recovered and put it through filters to try to face swap with people and try to figure out.
Scene.
Yeah, this is the Visions from Hell video, I think is what it's referred to as.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. And so, because that's really what it is. We see the crew at the original crew at the beginning, and they're just kind of going around introducing themselves.
Right.
And then we see just like blood orgy stuff.
Yeah.
That like just really
Nothing
terrible
sexual.
things
They're like
happening.
all murdering each other.
It's really not
No, there's
sexual.
there's some
Oh no,
sexual
there is
stuff.
some like doggy styles type stuff.
I got some fun facts about that later.
Ooh, I can't wait to
okay.
hear them.
So yeah, but it's just very
Where
like
do babies come from? Fun fact.
They come from
hell
hell.
babies.
I do remember one section of that where like the captain, I think, has his eyes in his hand and he's holding them out. It's like a Pan's Labyrinth
Yeah, he looks
thing,
just like Pan's
Yeah.
Labyrinth.
which I've never seen, but I've seen that.
It's when he's speaking the Latin.
It is.
Yeah. And so then they're all looking at this video and they're like, okay, fuck it. We got to just get off
Yeah,
this
we got to
ship.
bone the fuck out of this place.
And that's their plan. And
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne, I love it because he takes a page out of Todd's book and he's like, no, we're going to go to a safe distance and I'm going to bomb the shit out of this ship.
I'm gonna blow this shit fucking up. And they're walking down the corridor that separates the core from the like lifeboat part of the Event Horizon, and it's Sam Neill and him talking, and this is when like all the lights start to go out because the core starts to power up, and Sam goes, I can't leave, I'm home.
Yeah.
And then just
you
like,
can't leave either. The ship won't let you.
yeah, and then he just like walks backwards, and Lawrence Fishburne's like, all right.
All right.
He doesn't really say anything.
No, I think he says like, be on the ship in 20 minutes or you're walking your ass home because we're getting out of here.
So Lawrence Fishburne is like, hey, go get this ship's candy canes and bring it back to our ship.
Those are the CO2 scrubbers. The pilot and the doctor
Pilot
lady,
Todd and Dr. Mom are going to get all the candy cane
Mama
breathing
Bear.
tubes.
and they're the candy cane breathing tubes are fucking in the core.
Yeah.
So they're like pulling them out. The pilot is like stuffing them into like things that are designed to hold them.
Yeah.
And he gets enough and just fucking leaves her. He like bones out, and then she gets another one and starts to leave.
Yeah, and I
this
think
is when
he
the
thinks
core.
she's right behind him. Like, I don't think he just leaves her there. But
Speaking
he
as a
doesn't
pilot,
check.
He's like, whatever, I'm out of here. I've got enough to
my
survive.
6 candy canes.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm going home.
Exactly. That's if I have enough to survive, you are on your own. Peace out. But she gets what she needs, and she starts to leave, and then the core opens, and that's when she starts to see her son, who is not handicapped anymore, walking around, which should have been the first sign that it's not your real son.
Also, what the fuck? He's not on a spaceship.
Yeah, the first sign should be like you're in a health spaceship when there's visions everywhere and you saw a guy get shot out of an airlock and then he said the darkness is inside of him and then maybe that you should follow the visions of your son and go back in that room.
Right. And why did they not have a meeting about like, hey, don't follow weird visions? So anyways, Candy Cane Mom, she's got her candy canes and she's just wandering around looking for her son.
No, she goes back into the core, and then he goes down a hallway, and then she follows him. He's always like one step ahead of her, leading her somewhere,
They
and she
climb up a
chases
ladder.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to go. They go above the core.
They do.
Yeah. And she sees him and she starts like dreamy mom walking to him and then bam, falls through a hole because
She forgets to look where her feet are going, and falls down onto the core.
And I think, like you said, the wife was calling to Sam Neill. I think the ship is trying to make her think her son is calling to her.
You still look down as you walk.
Yeah, she just gets blinded by. I mean, I think the ship kind of gets into her a little bit, and it's sad though because I really like this character.
Yeah, she does.
Then Sam Neill, who is still nice Sam Neill, or has gone back to nice Sam Neill, goes back and says, "Dr. Mom, oh no,"
Well, he
and is
walks in
concerned.
Kind of weird looking. He's like, "Oh, core," and then he's like, "Oh no, Mama Bear,
Dr. Mom." Yeah, and then he flashes back to his old apartment that we saw him in at the very beginning.
Space apartment. His apartment's in space. This is important.
It is. Yeah,
but he's not actually there. He's watching his wife. It's kind of like a flashback, kind of like in The Grudge, and she's putting her lipstick on forever with a lip pencil, which bugged me.
but yeah, so he's like watching his wife's last moments before she kills herself.
And he's trying to explain to her and she can't see him. He's trying to explain, I'm sorry I paid so much attention to the ship. I wasn't there for you when you needed me. And then we see her kill herself.
Yeah.
And he's crying on the floor.
In a space bathtub.
Yeah.
How else do you take baths in space?
You don't.
It doesn't matter.
All right, so then,
she's dead, but then
then she's right behind him,
Right.
with no eyes and no top on either.
It's the best.
And she's giving him a hug.
My no eyes are up here, Todd.
Yeah, honestly, like I did not like this. It's hard for me to focus when.
Oh yeah, I mean, there
it's
are
not
some
usable
aggressive
nudity.
nipples in the screen.
They
Yeah.
are very aggressive, which I'm a fan of. But it's her eyes that I can't look away from, which is strange. Normally, when there are boobs on the screen, eyes are not what I'm looking
you're
at.
growing.
It wasn't me that was growing.
Oh jeez, a little Todd.
A little plonker.
All right, so she like holds his head against her stomach, and then she says, "Stay with me forever." And she opens her eyes to reveal her no eyes, and then she starts ripping his eyes out, and then we flash back to the coolant core where he's ripping his own eyes out at this point.
So he's like doing what she's doing in his mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Pilot Todd sees Weir suspiciously going down out of the Clark. He's like, "What the fuck? I thought he was on
I actually got a little confused at this point because you see Weir on the Event Horizon, and then the next scene you see Pilot and me like getting the ship, the Lewis and Clark, ready to go.
Yeah, still screaming about how they never should have gotten on the fucking ship in the first place.
Exactly. And talking to Lawrence Fishburne about, hey, we're ready to go, let's get out of here. Yeah. And then he sees Sam Neill or Dr. Weir walking off of that ship. And
only from behind.
Right. And I was like, that's super weird. Like he was just on the Event Horizon. Nailed it.
Is it weird?
It's weird.
In case you didn't get that joke, guys.
Yeah. It would have been funny if it was written down.
I know.
Anyway, so he walks off the ship, and then the pilot calls to Lawrence Fishburne and said, I think Weir just walked off the ship.
Yeah.
And then Lawrence, who's in the hallway, Lawrence Fishburne is in the hallway, sees one of the explosive charges that's set to blow the hallway between the core and the life bezel on the Event Horizon. He sees it's missing.
Yeah.
And he's like, he put a bomb on the Lewis and Clark, get off the ship.
Yeah.
And
one of the explosives missing. And he's like, I'm not fucking getting back on the Event Horizon. I'd rather take my chances trying to hunt this bomb down.
Lawrence Fishburne's like, do you want to argue with me or look for the bomb?
Yeah.
Well, no, Lawrence just get off the fucking ship because it's going to blow up. And Lawrence actually runs away from where the ship is. He
he runs towards it.
Lawrence Fishburne's running away from the Lewis and Clark.
I believe
because
he runs towards it.
He sees it explode and he's looking out the window at the wreckage of the explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He runs towards the airlock.
Why the fuck would you run towards it? It's going to blow up.
Because he cares about his direct reports.
He would never leave another man behind.
Yeah, whatever, man. Anyway, so the pilot does something stupid. Like if Lawrence had been like, Todd, there's a bomb on the ship, I'd have been like, okay, I'm out. And I would have run off the ship.
That's the only way you would get back on a ship? Or go back into a haunted house?
Yeah, you have to. Like if it's going to blow up and you're going to die, you have to do whatever is going to preserve life.
Yeah.
So you run onto the Event Horizon. I get that.
But he doesn't want to do that. He's like, okay, I can take this apart. Also, he just spent like hours putting the ship back together.
Oh, and Cooper's still out in the hole.
Yeah, Cooper's outside because he's just finished applying the Bondo to the outside of the hull.
Yeah. And, he's all out of electrical tape. He's coming on in.
He just throws out into space.
Right.
You hear him like, bum, 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 bum. Of course, the pilot finds the bomb and it counts down. He just sort of accepts his fate.
And it's sad. He just kind of closes his eyes and like puts his head down because he finds the bomb and we see the timer is at like 5 seconds and he's like, okay, there's nothing I can do.
I would have tried to hit a button or something before I
know, and there was like a display and I think one of them may have been disarmed. So like, why wouldn't you hit the whatever, man? Anyway, so the Lewis and Clark explodes. Cooper goes way off into space because he was on the Lewis and Clark as it explodes. He doesn't die, but gets shot into space.
And his magnetic boots are holding him to the piece of the Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, just like a bit of wreckage that's shot off into space.
Blown out. Yeah.
Which I did sort of like this, although it's really silly. But he blows his oxygen to get him back towards the Event Horizon. And what does he say as he's
like,
flying towards
coming, motherfuckers.
I'm coming for you, motherfucker. Like,
and I was like, what?
What is happening right now?
It was very weird.
I liked it, though. I was on board for that guy. He did a great job with that role. Yeah. Anyway, so at this point, it's just Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill,
Jolie Richardson, who has not been around for a while. And we were like, is she still alive?
No, she hit her head and like sort of passed out.
Right, because this is when Morpheus finds Jolie Richardson on the floor, like unconscious, and then he kind of wakes her up and he's like, hey, we got to get out. And then Sam Neill, Dr. Evil's around in the captain's chair with no eyes, and he's like, the ship is evil.
And this is the evil exposition dump. Yeah.
The supervillain exposition dump.
Yeah. It is. But this is where Sam Neill, as the evil ship, kind of explains what happened to the last crew.
Right.
And that the crew now is there to replace them.
Yeah.
And then he starts the trip to hell, more or less.
Yeah, he started the countdown to open up the gateway.
Yes.
And so then he's about to shoot Morpheus with like a big
so what
flare
happens
gun?
is Jolie grabs a thing and tries to hit him, and Sam Neill throws her all the way across the room.
Yeah, like Chris Sarandon blocks her and just plonks her
He's got
around.
that super space strength.
He does.
He does, yeah.
And then he gets the whole repair gun that's like the crazy fucking nail gun.
Yeah.
And is about to shoot Lawrence Fishburne. And then Cooper is now on the outside of the glass that's holding the spaceship together.
It's the windshield of the spaceship.
It is the windshield,
He's like, hey guys, let me in.
And he's like, what the fuck? And
then Samuel's like, ugh.
And Samuel shoots at him, and of course it's glass.
Yeah.
So it goes through the glass, and then
it's like a harpoon kind of thing.
So dumb.
Nothing
it is
makes
sort of like a harpoon.
Nothing makes sense.
And so it's depressurized the cabin.
Oh my God,
So then Sam Neill and his evil space chair get like sucked out the window.
But here's the thing. He just spent 10 minutes explaining that he wanted everyone to stay on the ship and be safe and be the new crew. And then he shoots out the window to suck everybody into space. It doesn't make any sense.
That's why I even said, why would he do that? After explaining what he just explained, why would he do that?
He's like, but I'm not going to miss. Because he didn't think he was going to miss. He had evil BDE.
They call that evil hubris.
Oh, yeah. Pardon me. Yeah, you get your eyes ripped out and your balls grow like
That's
4
how he
sizes.
missed. He didn't have any eyes. He couldn't see what the fuck he was doing. He like Ray
true.
Charles shot at him and missed because he couldn't see.
Oh, no, he hit like right where he was.
That's
on the
true.
Window.
He was aiming for Morpheus.
Took a shot at Cooper. It almost hit Cooper. Cooper
did.
flies off into space. He's like, oh my God.
I just got back.
And then everybody's holding on comically style.
Yeah.
This is the climax of my Legos.
This is ridiculous to
He
me
just
too.
turns a hairdryer on him and just blows them all down the hallway.
But this is ridiculous. So Sam Neill has shown that he has super strength at this point.
Yeah.
And he's the only one that can't muscle his way out of the room. Both Jolie and Lawrence Fishburne muscle their way out of the room.
Yes,
but
they do.
He, the one with super strength, Sam Neill, gets sucked out.
Well, but Jolie doesn't muscle herself out the room. She muscles herself to not getting sucked out the window. And then Lawrence Fishburne grabs her
He
and
does
pulls
save her,
her.
but
'cause
she
he's
gets
like,
halfway to the
I'm not
window.
leaving another person behind. And he grabs her and he pulls her in. Yeah. And he's had to prop the door open with this like space pickaxe or something.
But this is where they go to, and they get weapons themselves, right? They get like, he's got like shears.
Yeah.
And then she gets something.
She gets the space pickaxe.
Okay, well,
I think,
Sam Neill gets sucked into space too.
Right. Yes.
And then the bridge seals up, and then the airlock starts opening, and so they grab the weapons. It's like, oh
They're
shit,
like,
he's coming back.
Who can it be? Yeah, yeah. And it's not. And you called this. It's Cooper coming back.
Of course it's Cooper coming back.
Who goes, don't hit me.
Dude, and he keeps
love that
walking
line.
into these scenes where everybody's about to attack him. He's like, what the fuck? I've been
He
out in
just goes,
space.
I don't think my welding job did good.
Yeah. All that caulk for nothing, man.
Okay.
Okay, so now they're like, okay, well, fuck them. Lewis and Clark, how are we going to get home now? And so they decide to blow the hull in half.
Yeah, they're gonna blow up the hallway, and they're gonna live on the life vessel and call for support.
Right.
And they're gonna blow up the fucking core.
Yeah, yeah. And so Lawrence Fishburne's going to go set all of the explosives, and she orders the two of them to stay behind and stay in the lifeboat part of the ship. And so he runs all the way down the hallway, and he starts setting the bombs. And this is when he sees the fireman again, and the Burning Man is walking down the hall at him and like shooting fire lasers at him at this point.
Very lasery.
Yeah.
He jumps into the core to save himself.
Yeah,
from the fire
he chases him into the core.
Yeah.
So now he's in this section.
Now he's Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, takes off his mask and goes, shoots fire at him.
Yeah,
It does look exactly like that. Also, the guy who directed this movie directed that movie.
Yeah.
So, but he's got the detonator to the bomb that he just set in his hand too.
He did arm all of the explosives along the way down the corridor, and then takes the remote with him.
And then Fireman reveals himself to be
Sam
now
Neill.
Pinhead Sam Neill.
Yeah.
Who's got,
I don't know who Pinhead is, but
you will.
You'll learn.
Sure. But Sam Neill's like a bunch of cuts on his face.
Yeah, he's got his eyes back. He's got no hair. I don't think he's wearing any clothes anymore either.
No,
they
he's
reveal it
definitely
like-
swinging some dong. But anyway, so at this point, Lawrence Fishburne has like a moment and realizes that he has to sacrifice himself.
Well, but first Sam Neill's talking about how he has opened the gateway and he's going to drag the entire ship into hell, and we're the new crew of the ship. And then he holds Morpheus's head and he shows him these visions, and it's all the crew members like in these terrible torturous scenarios, and like one of them's all tied up with barbed wire and one's got a spike poking through the back of his head. It's all gross.
It's pretty graphic.
It's very
They're
graphic.
quick cuts of very graphic things.
Yeah, they are. I got fun facts about that. And so he's like, no, just take me, just leave them. He's like, no, they're all coming with me.
This is a really elaborate plot just to get 4 people to hell.
Well, he wants as many bodies as he can.
I think he wanted all 8, but then he just started killing them. I don't know.
So he sacrifices himself.
Lawrence Fishburne does.
He blows up the umbilical cord of the ship, allowing the lifeboat part with Jolie Richardson and Cooper to escape, and he just gets sucked into hell, and that sucks.
Yeah, and that's almost the end of the movie. Like,
right.
Because then it goes to like 94 days later or whatever. And then you see a rescue team finding Justin, who's been in stasis for like half the movie at this point.
Right.
And then Cooper and Jolie.
A rescue team with much cooler suits.
Oh, yeah. They have awesome suits.
And it says rescue on their face, too, so you know who they are.
They're like official. It's like the fire department of space.
And then they try and get one cheap last jump scare in when Jolene sees the rescuer's face as Sam Neill Pinhead, I guess is what you were calling him. And then it's just revealed that she just has sort of, I guess, PTSD.
Yeah, which, I mean, I would too.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Just a nightmare. Maybe just one nightmare.
Or
Sure.
it could imply that they didn't get out. They got sucked in too.
No, but then it cuts to them like, hey, you're okay, though.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I think it's not that.
And they had a version of that scene without that jump scare where it's just the people saving them.
I like that better. I don't like those cheap.
I don't know. I do. I think
Like, was it a dream? Like,
I mean, this whole movie was a bunch of cheap jump scares. So, I don't know.
I don't know.
But that's the movie.
And that's the movie.
roll
Yeah.
credits. And then
Roll.
cue the Mortal Kombat Event Horizon remix.
Event Horizon.
It was a weird choice of credits.
It honestly sounds like Prodigy to me, which is very much Mortal Kombat type music. Let's do final thoughts.
So I think that for me, this is an example of me seeing this at the right time. And
So
just,
like nostalgia?
yeah,
sort of?
like, well,
Okay.
I just got a soft spot for it, you know?
I'm going to make you guys watch movies that are terrible. that
Oh
I
yeah,
love.
I just love it. I don't know. It works for me. Yes, there are a lot of dumb things, but I can let go of a lot of that stuff, partly because I don't like science fiction that much, so I don't get bogged down with those plots. But I just loved it, and I loved all the acting, and it's love it.
Part of being a horror movie fan is liking movies that are probably terrible and then getting all your friends to watch them.
That's true. And then your friends are like, "You like this movie?"
But did you like that movie? This movie?
No, this is
Okay.
Jen's movie.
Yeah,
And
I don't like this movie
Oh
either.
yeah, I did pick this one, and I can objectively step back and look at it and see all of the parts that I can understand why people don't like. It works for me, and I just like it. You know.
I didn't like this movie. It wasn't very effective. It wasn't super scary either. There were a lot of jump scares, so we'll talk about that in a second. But I didn't think it was super scary. And I didn't hate the story. I just didn't think they pulled it off very well. But for what you're saying about the Titanic stuff, and this got bumped up way up, and they didn't get a chance to really do post production on it.
Right, like
that sort of makes sense.
My final thoughts here: the editing was poor.
Yeah.
The sounds were poor. The jump scares were cheap. They weren't even like set up like real jump scares. They're like flashes. They're like quick cut.
Exactly.
Stuff. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it when it came out. I don't like it now. I like that it's in space.
That's the thing about it I don't like. I like everything else. I mean, I don't dislike that it's in space. I just don't care that it's in space.
So let's talk box office.
Yeah.
So this movie production budget was $60 million, which was a shitload of money for 1997.
And these are a lot of actors like at their peak too.
Oh yeah,
So
this is Sam Neill after Jurassic Park.
Yeah, dude. Lawrence Fishburne had been doing a lot too.
Hadn't done Matrix yet, so I don't think it was at his peak, but it was definitely towards the top.
Yeah, he was a known actor.
This movie didn't do well.
No, it bombed. I bet it
No.
made $30 million.
It did.
Close. It made $26 million. So yeah, it lost more than half of its budget, and that doesn't even include the amount of money they spent to promote it. So it bombed. It did very poorly.
It did, and it got a lot of negative reviews too. And one guy wrote something about if you want the Event Horizon experience, but you don't want to pay for the gas, put a bucket over your head and have somebody bang you with a wrench for 2 hours.
Oh my
The same
God.
thing. I was like,
Oh my
geez.
God, that's rough.
I mean, I can see people not liking this movie, but I don't think it's that bad.
I think it's that bad.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I don't
Oh
like
no,
it.
I love it.
Are we doing Jen's fun facts?
Are we ready for Jen's fun facts?
Let's do them.
So, okay, I've already talked about how Titanic really fucked up their production. And I mean, I guess for the studio, it worked out because Titanic made like billions of dollars.
Yeah, they needed Titanic after this fucking bomb.
Yeah, they
For
did.
sure.
But I wonder if this movie had the time it needed post-production, what it would have been.
Well, it certainly would have been better. I'll say that. I don't know if it would have made its money though.
Well, so it was originally 130 minutes, and they rushed it and they made them do a test screening, and they didn't have enough time to like work through all the effects. Apparently, like they still had wires that they hadn't been able to digitally cut out yet, and the audience hated it. So it was a 130-minute runtime, and they ended up cutting it down to like 96 minutes.
Yeah, it's
So they
short.
cut a ton of shit out of it. And part of the reason that the test audience hated this is because a lot of what they cut they ended up cutting out was super gory stuff. Like everything we see that's gory, it was like way extended in this movie or in the original cut. Like the blood orgy was really a lot longer. It wasn't flashes. It was like you saw it for an extended amount of time. And I wonder how much of the budget they spent on that stuff, and then they had to cut that out.
Yeah,
and if they had known they were going to have to cut it out, they wouldn't have spent that money in the budget. And I think the studio was pretty hands off because they were so busy dealing with Titanic at the time that they didn't realize how gory the movie was going to be until they saw it, and they made them cut a bunch of shit out.
It reminds me of 13 Ghosts, but like all the interesting stuff is just cutaways.
Yeah. The Visions from Hell video that we watched was a lot longer and a lot more graphic and really disturbing. Apparently some people fainted during the test screening because they hired real life amputees to play some of these parts, and they hired porn actors.
Nice.
So the blood orgy scene would be a lot more realistic. And it was really disturbing, and they had to cut it out. Once they released it, like it started to make a lot more money, and it kind of has grown a cult following, and they made a lot more money like in home box office than they did in the theaters. And so they started talking about making an extended cut of the movie to kind of add some of that footage back in. And the footage was lost. Like it wasn't stored properly. And so that 40 minutes is just gone forever.
Oh shit, that sucks.
I know. Sucks for the director, man.
We actually got a fan submitted fun fact about the director, right?
We did, yeah. Paige Wesley from Cult Podcast, and she said, "Hey, enjoy Event Horizon. The screenwriter Phil Eisner was one of my professors in film school, and he hates the theatrical cut of this film and had us read what his cut would have been. And spoiler, it was way darker and way scarier. And I think I still also have a copy of the shooting draft of a zombie movie he wrote and I produced independently, but I never got to see. Also, he's obsessed with Alien and would freehand draw xenomorphs on the chalkboard." That sounds awesome. He also took us on a field trip to see the first Paranormal Activity. Okay, so this is the best class ever.
Yeah, apparently.
Overall, super cool dude. Thank you so much, Paige. That's awesome. I have a fun fact about the space suits. Apparently, they weighed 65 pounds.
What?
I know. And so they couldn't stand up for too long wearing these things because they would get back injuries.
Yeah.
And it was impossible for them to sit down in them. So they had these standing poles that they would just like hook themselves up to when they were in these suits. And I have one quote about Lawrence Fishburne just yelling at the set director and like, "Damn you did this to me," being in these suits.
That does sound horrible. Like, that's the worst.
Okay, and so my last fun fact. So you said that, what is it, Paul Anderson?
Yeah, the guy who
Paul
directed
W.S.
it?
Anderson.
Yeah.
So he got offered to direct a couple of other things, and he turned it down after Mortal Kombat. It was the first X-Men. He got offered that, but he really wanted to do an R-rated horror movie and like really go for it.
Man, did he choose poorly. Holy shit.
It's turned out okay for him. Okay, so the next...
Yeah, but like just okay.
So the movie after, I think it was... I don't know if it was right after, but he did Soldier with Kurt Russell.
I like that movie.
I haven't seen it. But anyway, so he was talking to Kurt Russell while he was making this movie because it did so poorly, like, and it got just tanked. And Kurt Russell was like, "Yeah, that's what happened with The Thing. 20 years from now, you'll be glad you made this movie." And that turned out to be true for Kurt Russell and for this movie because it does have a cult following. And we've had people commenting on it. Like, there are a lot of people that really like this movie for what it is. It's just a bonkers off the rails movie. You know?
It is very off the rails. That is true.
And that's my fun facts.
So let's talk about the scary scale because I got thoughts. So Jen, will you explain your scary scale?
Hey, listeners, our scary scale is how we rank how scared we were when we watched this movie. It's not a ranking of the quality of the movie. It's how scared we were today when we watched it. Our 1 example is Ghostbusters, and our 10 example is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right, Todd, scary scale.
I'm going to give it a 4. It wasn't super scary, but there were a lot of really, and I'm going to say with extensive air quotes, effective jump scares because you sent me many videos that we'll be making for the Patreon for just being scared as fuck because they're just really jump scary moments. The gore wasn't too bad, but I do think if we saw the actual, like what the director wanted, the writer and director wanted, that would have gotten to me too. But it wasn't in the final cut, so that wasn't effective for me. But the jump scares put it at a 4 for me. Mikey, how about you?
I'm going to give it a 1.
I'm not too surprised by that.
I don't think the jump scares are effective. I don't think the atmosphere is effective to me. And I know I'm hating on your movie, Jen. I'm sorry. But I fully expect you to hate on my movies.
Oh, yeah. I'm saving up all my animosity to just throw at House 2.
This is not personal. This is not personal towards you and your movie.
You're allowed to not like this movie if you want to, you know? All right, so Mikey, you gave it a 1?
Yeah.
All right, I think I'm gonna give this a 5.
Really?
Yeah, man.
That surprises me.
So you know how jump scares are your thing.
Yeah, they're my
gore
kryptonite.
is my thing. I do not like when I can see people hanging by their skin. I don't like a lot of blood. I don't like eyes being ripped out. It grosses me out. I don't like any of it. So yeah, that's what I'm going to give it. When I saw this in theaters, it really scared me a lot.
So this week, Jen, you made me watch Event Horizon. What are you making me watch next week?
Well, I'm not making you watch anything, Todd. Our listeners are making us watch the winner of our April listener request. And the theme this month was Let's Scare Todd to death.
Yay. You guys are jerks.
I know. And the winner was Sinister.
Yeah, it sounds horrible. I don't know. I mean, all of them looked horrible to me.
Yeah. And so what I think is interesting too, because Mikey and I were talking about this, and I don't necessarily think of Sinister and Insidious as like scary movies for me. I mean, I think they're scary, but they're not the scariest movies for me. But I think they're going to really fuck the shit out of Todd.
They're going to fuck the shit out of you.
Which I'm not always against.
Right. I love it because what that tells me is you guys are listening and you're thinking about what really scares Todd.
You mean in a
They're
different
both
kind of
pretty
way, though.
scary. Yeah. They've got a lot of jump scares, both of them.
They do.
I hate jump scares.
Let's make sure we watch it during a thunderstorm where the power may or may not go out.
Yeah, we're not.
Todd yelled at me today because I was like watching a trailer while the power was like, turn it off.
And you wouldn't fucking turn it off.
Because I'm an adult.
I was about to take my ball and go home.
Oh, yeah, I know. And then how will we record the podcast?
So, thank you guys for listening. We are a member of the Modern Horrors Podcast Network.
Yes, we are.
So if you're listening to us in their feed, subscribe to our feed. You get it 2 days earlier on Monday.
48 hours.
Not Wednesday. On Monday, you get it.
Yeah.
Nice. Also, but if you are listening in their feed, you're listening to other great shows like The Final Girls, Death, Dying, and Other Things, and of course the Modern Horrors Podcast, which is an awesome network to be a part of, and we're glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
If you want to follow us on social, it's at Horror Virgin on pretty much every social out there. Mikey is at mrandolph24 on Twitter and Instagram. Jen Ferratu is at Jen Ferratu on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I am at Todd J. Awesome on those platforms as well. If you want to check out our blog, go to horrorvirgin.com. You also have other stuff there. There's like a link to our merch store.
Somebody bought a Final Girls logo onesie, and I cannot wait to see pictures.
Oh,
of
yeah.
it. Please
Oh, my
send
God.
pictures.
Oh, my God. So, yeah, if you want to check out our Patreon, it's at patreon.com/horrorvirgin. We have a lot of great patrons up there supporting the show monetarily. If you want to go help us with that, please do.
Yeah.
Or if you can't afford to support us financially, please just continue telling your friends, colleagues, family members about the show.
It really means a lot to us.
It does.
Just that you listen.
All of that stuff really, really helps the pod, and we appreciate it. In fact, to celebrate, we're going to read a 5-star review that we got here recently, right, Mikey?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, like, the Facebook group has sort of started to explode in a very real fun way. I did a Ask Todd Anything video today that I thought was a pretty fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
It was fun.
But it was Facebook group exclusive. So if you weren't in the
free
Facebook
to join.
group, yeah, it didn't cost you anything. So so if you just join the Facebook group, you get all that content or extra content for free. So Mikey, you're gonna read that 5-star review or what?
Yes. Chelly HBC says,
I'm glad we put our strong reader on the
I
reading.
know.
all right, hold on. Here goes my reading voice. If you love horror, laughter, and smashing the patriarchy, then you must check out the podcast. Between Jen's knowledge and wit, Todd's reactions to being constantly terrified and his killer sense of humor, and Mikey's infectious laugh and God dang it.
And reading skills.
And relatability and reading skills at definitely a middle school level. These three have struck podcast gold. I'm proud to be a member of the Horror Virgin family. 5 stars, my absolute favorite.
I love it. We're
That's
sitting
such
at gold
a
mine.
fantastic review.
That was a fantastic review. Thank you very much for that. And if you would like us to read your review on the podcast, leave us a 5-star review and we might very well read your review.
Yeah.
I'll only mess it up 3 or 4 times.
Mikey will do his best, guys.
Send us some emails too.
Yeah.
We might read those.
I like to read. I'm getting better.
Yeah, Mikey needs a lot of practice, so send along.
Yeah, guys, if you want to help us teach Mikey to read, send us emails or 5-star reviews so we can get as much practice for Mikey as possible. Although I will say this, when I did the Ask Todd Anything video, You're never seeing me read those questions for the first time because every time I read it the first time, I fucked it up on every one of the questions I
really?
answered.
Did you just edit out?
Of course.
That's going to be it for us, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in with us.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, I'm Jen.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your horror virgin Todd, guys. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
I'm going to fist box that Monday morning commute.
Oh my God.
What did you say?
Fist in that commute.
Did you say you're going to fist fuck that morning
I
commute?
said fist box, but yeah, fist fuck works.
You're going to fist that box?
You're going to fist fuck that morning commute right to hell.
I'm keeping all of this.
Yeah, will you cut that out? I want that to be my text message ringtone.
I'm definitely keeping all of this. Jen is losing her mind. Bye, nerds.